And so the English send Braddock and some troops to the colonies, and Washington had actually gotten out of the military, out of the Virginia regiment, until Braddock came and he rejoined because, as he told his brother in a letter, he, quote, wanted to gain by it, meaning that he saw the military as a way that he could grow socially, economically, and politically in regard to power. And so he was going to take advantage of this. He travels out to the frontier. Braddock leads his men into an ambush. The French and their Amerindian allies attack. They successfully ambush Braddock. Braddock gets killed. Washington takes command. And this is where he does gain a name for himself, because he turns a defeat into, well, a defeat, but one where more people lived than otherwise might have happened, okay? And so he gets this wonderful reputation as being a good, strong commander, as Stearns depicts him here. And his name is thrown around and talked about, and this is going to be an important part of his advancement in Virginia and colonial society. Looking at the work from an artistic perspective, I cannot help but thank you, Tim, of another famous work related to the French and Indian War, The Death of General Wolfe by Benjamin West, 1770, before the Revolution, where West depicts another famous battle during the French and Indian War that Washington began, where the British successfully take Quebec. In the process, General Wolfe and coincidentally General Montcalm, who was leading the French troops, they both die during this battle. This is the moment, a fictitious vision of what this death may have looked like in regard to General Wolfe, that Benjamin West captures for us. It is neoclassical in spirit, but it makes this radical break with art at the time. He dares to depict a hero in a tragic moment, not in a toga or a tunic, but rather in historical garb. This was revolutionary in art, and it became one of the most famous images from the French and Indian War, or of the French and Indian War. And I would argue that it did influence Stearns as he painted his depiction along the frontier. And we'll go ahead and click. And I think you can just right off the bat see some compositional similarities. First, the background, and we can go ahead and click again. The background in West's painting is somewhat through an atmospheric effect. There's a haziness to the background. Smoke from battle creates this haziness in Stearns, but in both paintings, the action is moving from right to left toward a vanishing point somewhere along the left horizontal line, or horizon line. We also see that there, and go ahead and click, if we break this, whoops, let's try it again. Oh, and again. There we go. If we divide this by the rule of thirds, we see that there are some interesting similarities that begin to emerge. You have a group of individuals in the primarily far left panel. Similarly here in Stearns painting, a group of individuals. We find that, and go ahead and click, that Braddock and Wolfe are almost perfectly matched up compositionally. And then we see some other action on the right pane, but very quickly we see Benjamin West depicting Braddock in an almost Christ-like image, isn't it? And go ahead and click, and what we see is possibly an allusion to a work such as Albrecht Dürer of Christ and the body of Christ after the removal from the cross. He becomes sort of this Christ-like image within the painting in regard to how he's depicted. Do note, though, that Wolfe is kind of, his eyes are rolled back. He's not looking at anybody really. He's at death. He's looking off into the distance. Go ahead and click. And similarly with Braddock, who does he remind you of? Anyone? Yeah, like Christ, crucifixion and such. But go ahead and click. Christ being removed from the cross. And so I think there's sort of some Christ-like imagery that comes to mind, not saying that they are Christ-like, but rather some visual allusions to a Christ-like depiction